welcome back to the deep dive.
Glad to be back.
I have to be honest. When I first saw the source material for today,
The CIMA E1 course book.
right on the finance function, my brain, it immediately went to the basement. You know what I mean?
I do. Flickering lights, visors.
Exactly. Aggressively highlighting expense reports because someone bought the wrong brand of stapler.
The classic Department of No. It's a stereotype that it's survived for decades. The idea that finance is just there to stop you from spending money.
The business prevention unit. But reading through this, especially the parts on managing finance in a digital world, I realized just how, outdated that image is.
Oh, completely.
This isn't about counting beans anymore. It felt less like a math class and more like reading the manual for the pilot of a spaceship.
That's a much better analogy. The source material is really trying to dismantle that old scorekeeper identity.
Scorekeeper, right?
Think about it. A scorekeeper only looks backward. They tell you who won after the game is already over.
After the stadium is empty.
Exactly. Modern finance, at least how CIMA defines it here, is about looking forward. It's about being a strategic partner that stops the spaceship from hitting an asteroid before you even see it on the radar.
Which is a much, much higher stakes job. So we've got a lot to unpack today.
A huge amount.
We're going to look at the ecosystem companies operate in, this really interesting framework called the 5 A's.
The secret sauce, I think you called it?
I think it is. And then the heavy stuff. Governance and ethics. How to create value without going to jail or losing your soul.
A delicate balance, for sure, but a necessary one.
So let's start with the big picture. The text talks about the ecosystem.
Right.
I feel like business books love that word. It usually just means everything around us, but they break it down into macro and micro. Is that just a fancy way of saying big stuff and small stuff?
In a way, yeah, but the distinction is actually vital for strategy. Think of the micro environment, sometimes called the task environment, as the things you can actually interact with directly.
Okay, so give me an example. What's in the micro environment?
Your competitors, your customers, your suppliers. It's the street fight.
The street fight. I like that.
If a supplier doubles the price of steel tomorrow, you feel that immediately. But, importantly, you can pick up the phone and yell at them. You can negotiate.
You have some influence.
You have some influence there, yes.
Okay, so micro is the street fight. I can punch back. What's the macro environment then?
Macro is the weather during the fight. You can't punch the weather. The text uses the PESTLE framework here to describe it.
PESTLE. Break that down for us.
It's political, economic, social, technological, ecological, and legal. These are forces that happen to you. If the government passes a new data privacy law, that's political and legal. You can't just call up the president and say, hey, this is a bit inconvenient for my quarterly targets.
Right. You just have to buy an umbrella.
Exactly. You have to adapt. If there's a global recession, that's economic. The tide goes out for everyone. The job of finance isn't to control these factors because you can't. It's to build a shelter that can survive them.
That makes perfect sense. So you need to know if it's raining macro before you decide to sell convertibles to your customers micro.
Precisely.
But once you understand the environment, you have to decide what you're actually doing. And the source material lists this hierarchy: vision, mission, objectives. I'll be honest. I've sat in so many corporate retreats where these terms just get thrown around. It all sounds like the same buzzword soup. We want to be a world-class solution provider of excellence.
And that's exactly what a bad mission statement sounds like. It's meaningless. The text uses an airline example to clear this up, which is actually quite helpful.
Yeah, I saw that. Walk me through the difference. I always mix up vision and mission.
Okay, so think of the vision as the dream. It's the someday. It's aspirational and timeless.
The North Star.
Right. For that airline, the vision might be something like to become the world's most loved travel company. You never really finish that goal. It just guides you.
Okay, so vision is the dream, the destination on the horizon.
Yep. The mission is the reality. It answers the question, what do we do on Tuesday? It defines your purpose and your scope.
What business are we in?
Exactly.
Yeah.
We provide safe, affordable air travel to Europe and Asia. That tells me what we do, and just as importantly, what we don't do. We don't sell train tickets. We don't fly to Mars.
That distinction is actually really helpful. Vision is where we're going. Mission is the vehicle we're driving.
Great way to put it.
But you can't just tell a ground crew to be the most loved travel company. That doesn't tell them how fast to load the bags.
No, it doesn't. And that's where objectives come in. And this is where finance really starts to shine. Objectives need to be specific. The text uses the SMART acronym.
Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-related.
Correct. So load bags faster is a terrible objective. A SMART objective is reduce average baggage loading time to 15 minutes per flight by the end of Q3.
That I can measure. And if I can measure it, I can manage it. The text also threw in two other acronyms, CSFs and KPIs. I know KPI is key performance indicator, but CSF.
Critical success factor. They're inextricably linked.
Okay.
The CSF is the thing that must go right for you to succeed. So if you're a high-end restaurant, critical success factor might be excellent food quality.
Right. If the food's bad, the business dies.
That's the factor.
So the CSF is the what, and the KPI is the how.
The KPI is the how. It's the speedometer for that factor. How do we know the food is excellent? Maybe the KPI is number of plates returned to the kitchen or Michelin star rating.
I see. So CSF is the strategy. We need good food.
Yeah.
KPI is the measurement. Are people eating it?
Precisely. And picking the wrong KPI is so dangerous. If your CSF is fast service and your KPI is table turnover time, your waiters might start snatching plates away while people are still chewing just to hit the number.
Right. Creating a miserable experience, but hitting the target perfectly. Which, that actually leads perfectly into the next concept, my absolute favorite aha moment from this. The 3 E's.
Yes. Economy, efficiency, and effectiveness. This is foundational.
In normal conversation, I use efficient and effective as synonyms. That was an effective meeting. That was an efficient meeting. Same thing.
In casual conversation, maybe, in finance, absolutely not. Confusing them can literally bankrupt a company.
Okay, break it down for me.
Let's start with the first E, economy. That's strictly about the cost of inputs. It's about buying cheap.
So my furniture factory buys the cheapest wood possible. High economy.
You got it. You save money on the resource. Then there's efficiency. That's the ratio of input to output. It's about working smart.
Okay.
So if you can cut that wood so you get 10 chairs out of a log instead of 8, you're being efficient. You're wasting less.
So I bought cheap wood economy, and I turned it into the maximum number of chairs efficiency. I'm winning at business.
Not if nobody wants to sit in them. That's the third E, effectiveness. Effectiveness is about the output matching the objective. If your goal was to make high-end, durable luxury furniture, but you used the cheapest wood available.
Then I made a lot of cheap breakable chairs very efficiently.
Exactly. You were incredibly efficient at failing. You didn't achieve the goal. Effectiveness is doing the right thing. Efficiency is just doing the thing right.
Wow.
You need both, of course, but effectiveness has to come first.
That is such a crucial distinction. It explains so many bad products I've bought in my life. Someone focused on the spreadsheet cost and speed and forgot to ask if the product was actually any good.
And that is the role of the modern finance professional, to look at that spreadsheet and say, hey, we're saving money here, but are we killing the brand? Are we achieving the mission?
So how do they actually do that? The text introduces this model called the 5 A's. It looks like a roadmap for the job.
It is. It's the information to impact model. It's basically the assembly line of value creation.
And the first A is literally assemble.
Right. This is the traditional stuff, collecting data, processing transactions, cleaning spreadsheets, the counting beans part. It has to be accurate. If you get this wrong, everything else falls apart.
But here's my question. With AI and automation, isn't assembling basically dead as a human job?
It is dying, certainly. Or it's becoming invisible. A machine can process invoices faster than any human. So if your entire career is built on being really good at data entry, you are in trouble.
Because we moved to the second A, Annalise.
This is looking for patterns. Why are sales down in the north? It's asking why.
But again, let me push back. AI is getting pretty good at that too. I can upload a spreadsheet to an AI right now and ask it to find trends.
You are absolutely right. The machines are coming for analysis too. And that is why the value, the human value, is shifting almost entirely to the next 2 A's.
Advise and apply.
Exactly.
Okay, so talk to me about advice.
Advice is where you leave the spreadsheet and enter the boardroom. You take that analysis, sales are down in the north, and you combine it with business context to say, we need to change our marketing mix in that region, and here's how.
You're influencing people.
You're offering a solution, not just a problem.
That requires a totally different personality, though. You can't just be a quiet introvert in the corner. You have to sell your ideas.
100%. It requires communication, persuasion, empathy, and then you have apply. That's making sure the advice actually happens.
Guiding the execution.
It's performance management. tracking the new strategy to see if it works.
So we have assemble, analyze, advise, apply. That's 4. What's the 5th A?
Acumen. It's the glue. Acumen is the judgment that holds it all together. It's knowing what data to assemble, how to frame the advice so the CEO listens, and when to push back.
So acumen is wisdom. The difference between being smart and being wise.
That's a great way to put it. It connects the technical skills to the business needs.
Okay, so we've got our finance pro. They're effective. They have acumen. They're advising the board. But here's the dark side. What happens when the people running the company aren't the people who own the company? The text calls this the agency problem.
It is the fundamental flaw in modern capitalism.
It sounds like the plot of a corporate thriller.
It basically is. Look, if you own and run your own taco stand, you're not going to steal from the till. Why?
Because it's my money. I'd be stealing from myself.
Exactly. But in a huge corporation, the owners are millions of shareholders. The managers are the CEO and the board. They are different people.
The managers are the agents.
Yes. And agents have their own incentives. They might want a private jet. They might want to buy a competitor just to make the empire bigger, even if it's a bad deal for shareholders.
So the agency problem is basically, how do we stop the managers from looting the place while the owners aren't looking?
Blunt, but yeah, that's accurate. This is where corporate governance comes in. It's the system of checks and balances designed to align the manager's interests with the owner's interests.
And the text highlights a fascinating split here between the U.S. and the U.K.
The rules versus principles approach, yeah.
The U.S. approach is rules-based. Think Sarbanes-Oxley. It's rigid. You must have a committee of 3 people. They must meet 4 times a year.
Black and white.
Which makes sense. If you break the rule, you get sued. It's clear.
It is clear. But the downside is it encourages box sticking. Companies just focus on following the exact letter of the law and stop thinking about the spirit of it. They find loopholes.
They do the minimum not to get arrested.
Right. And the UK uses a principles-based approach. The mantra is comply or explain.
Comply or explain.
It sets out best practices principles, but it says, look, if this rule doesn't work for your company, you don't have to follow it. But T, you have to explain to your shareholders exactly why you aren't.
That sounds, I don't know, risky. Oh, sorry, we didn't have an audit committee. We were just too busy.
Well, ideally, the shareholders would see that and sell their stock, punishing the company. It treats the market like adults. It's flexible, but it relies on investors actually caring.
Right. But regardless of the approach, there are some hard lines. The text mentions the separation of powers. The CEO cannot be the chairman.
Correct. This is Governance 101. The CEO runs the business. The chairman runs the board that supervises the CEO if one person holds both titles.
They're grading their own homework.
It's a massive conflict of interest.
And then you have the NEDs, non-executive directors. What's their actual point?
To be the awkward question askers. Since they don't work for the company day to day, they can look at a strategy and say, wait, this makes no sense. They provide independent oversight.
They're the designated adults in the room.
Ideally. And they populate the key committees, audit, remuneration.
Remuneration is the big one for me. That's the pay committee.
Yes, you cannot have executives deciding their own pay. That is the fox guarding the henhouse. So the remuneration committee, made up of those independent NEDs, decides what the CEO is worth.
Okay, so governance is the structure, the walls and fences. But you still need the people inside to be, well, good people. Which brings us to ethics and CIMA's code, PIPCO.
Indeed. The moral compass for the profession.
I usually hate mnemonics, but let's just run through it quickly.
We should. First P is professional competence. Basically, know your stuff.
Don't take a job you can't do.
Right. Then IS is integrity. Be honest. Straightforward. Don't mislead by omission. The second P is professional behavior. Don't act in a way that makes all accountants look bad.
Right.
C is confidentiality. Keep your mouth shut about client secrets. No insider trading.
And the last one.
And O is objectivity.
Objectivity seems like the hardest one. I mean, it's easy in a classroom.
Yeah.
But what about when your boss, the CFO, comes to you and says, hey, this quarterly report looks a little weak. Can we just delay recording those expenses until next week?
That's the moment of truth. That's where objectivity hits reality. Your boss is pressuring you. You have a mortgage. But the code says you must not let that pressure override your professional judgment.
So what do you actually do?
Well, the text outlines a process. You check the facts. You check the code. You talk to the boss, explain why you can't do it. If they won't budge, you go over their head to the audit committee. And ultimately,
The nuclear option?
you might have to resign. If staying means cooking the books, the only ethical choice is to walk away.
Wow. I quit is the ultimate ethical move.
Sometimes, yes. It preserves your integrity, which is the only thing you really own in this profession.
That's heavy. But it zooms out even further. We have to talk about CSR, corporate social responsibility. The text brings up this pyramid: economic, legal, ethical, philanthropic. But then it throws in Milton Friedman, and he basically says, this is all nonsense.
Friedman is the classic counterweight. His argument from the 70s was, the business of business is business.
Right.
He argued that a manager is an agent of the shareholder. If the manager takes corporate profits and gives them to a charity, they're essentially stealing from the shareholder to look good.
It's a very logical, very cold argument. Don't be generous with other people's money.
It's logical. He said, make as much profit as possible within the law, give it to the shareholders, and let them donate to charity if they want.
But the modern view, and certainly the CIMA view, is that you can't really separate making profit from society anymore.
Exactly. This is where we get into strategic CSR. The text lists different postures. You can be proactive, lead the way on sustainability because it attracts customers and talent.
Which creates value.
Yes. Or you can be reactive, wait for a scandal and then fix it. Or a defense stance, do the bare minimum not to get sued.
In a digital world, taking a defense stance seems so dangerous. Like, technically, it wasn't illegal to dump that sludge in the river.
Exactly. In the age of social media, the public will destroy you for that. Your reputation is an asset. Finance has to value that asset. So Friedman's idea that you can just focus on profit ignores that being hated by society is actually bad for profit long term.
So bringing it all together, we have covered a massive amount of ground. From the macro weather report to the micro street fight.
A lot, yeah.
We learned that efficiency is worthless without effectiveness. We walked through the 5 A's, from assembling data to applying wisdom. And we built the safety nets of governance and ethics.
It's a comprehensive toolkit.
It really changes how I see the finance team. They aren't just the people saying no to my expense report. They're the navigators, trying to make sure the company's still here in 10 years.
That is the goal, to move from being a scorekeeper to being a game changer.
I love that. Scorekeeper to game changer.
Yeah.
Here's a final thought for everyone listening to mull over. We talked about how AI is eating up the assemble and analyze parts of the job, the math part. But a machine cannot sit in a boardroom, read the tension in the room, look a CEO in the eye, and explain why a highly profitable decision might be the wrong ethical choice. The true value of a human finance professional is shifting almost entirely to advise and apply.
The human element.
So the question is, are you ready to stop counting and start influencing?
A provocative question indeed.
Thanks for diving in with us. We'll see you on the next one.